Welcome, curious minds, to another compelling deep dive. We're about to plunge into a fascinating corner where, well, art meets algorithm, and the very definition of creativity is being reshaped right before our eyes. Just a quick note before we begin. This episode of the AI Daily Deep Dive podcast was researched entirely by the AI model Gemini 2.5 Pro Deep Research and is fully AI generated. So today, we're unpacking the incredible rise of a fictional band that became this really critical thought experiment, Velvet Sundown, their success, and then the big reveal that they were AI-driven. It forces us to grapple with some fundamental questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Questions about music's future, human creativity, IP, and how we, the audience, actually perceive art now in this age of AI.
Exactly.
And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We're going to unpack this complex interplay of forces, the ones defining the next era of music, and we're drawing insights from the essay, Kai Music, and Velvet Sundown. So we'll analyze how a sensation like this could even be manufactured, question the longevity of these, synthetic sensations, explore how different generations perceive it all.
Right.
And really dissect the systemic implications for the whole music industry.
So we'll deconstruct exactly how a phenomenon like Velvet Sundown could just sort of burst onto the scene, maybe place it in some historical context, explore the listener's psychology when faced with AI art, and ultimately forecast the legal, economic, and artistic shifts that AI is, poised to unleash. It's quite a journey we're starting.
Yeah.
Okay, Velvet Sundown's rise. It almost sounds too wild to be true. What was the secret sauce there? Was it just like pure luck or something way more deliberate?
Oh, the essay makes it pretty clear it was meticulously planned. Velvet Sundown's success really stands on two main pillars. First, this marketing strategy that brilliantly weaponized mystery.
Okay.
And second, a musical product that was engineered really for maximum emotional and neurological impact.
Weaponizing anonymity and ontological curiosity. That's such a powerful phrase. It wasn't just the usual who are they, with masked artists.
Right.
Velvet Sundown pushed it. It was what are they? That really deep human question about what something is fundamentally. And that taps right into our collective curiosity, maybe even anxiety about AI.
And they even framed the anonymity like an artistic choice, didn't they? Like burial or zoo. Which paradoxically just made the whole mystery even more compelling.
Clever.
And what's really smart is that the AI reveal wasn't some kind of risk they were taking. It was actually the planned climax of the campaign.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, designed specifically to generate this huge second wave of media buzz and public talk. It basically turned passive listeners into active investigators, driving up emotional investment and making it super shareable.
And the digital rollout sounds like a full-on campaign. TikTok was the epicenter, you said.
Definitely. TikTok's perfect for it. It's audio-centric, built for virality, those 15 to 30-second snippets. Ideal.
Oh.
And the clips themselves were engineered to be TikTok-friendly, encouraging users to make their own content, dances, memes, turning them into unwitting promoters.
So they become part of the machine.
Exactly. And the music wasn't even officially released at first. It was seeded, kind of quietly, to specific influencers.
Creating that illusion of organic discovery.
Precisely. Leveraging the trust those influencers have. Kind of like how Lorde gave Oshie that early boost with a tweet.
And then there was the branding, the visuals.
Meticulous branding. A consistent, really compelling visual identity, enigmatic album art, cryptic social posts. It all worked to build this tribe, a community around the mystery. But like Marshmallow, maybe?
And pull marketing, not push. So drawing people in rather than shoving links at them.
Yeah, using cryptic clues, fan engagement, making people feel like they were part of this exclusive discovery.
Okay, that marketing strategy is incredibly sophisticated. But I mean, that just gets eyeballs or ears, right?
Yeah.
What about the music itself? How did that keep people hooked?
Okay, now we get to the anatomy of the hit. The core appeal, according to the essay, was this really delicate balance. Familiarity, surprise, and dopamine.
Okay, explain that.
Well, the songs were built on familiar pop structures. Verse, chorus, bridge, standard 44-time, common keys like C or G major.
Stuff our brains recognize easily.
Exactly. And that structural familiarity is crucial because our brains release dopamine when they recognize patterns. It makes the music feel comfortable, accessible, almost instantly rewarding.
But just familiarity gets boring fast, so there had to be something else.
Right. And that's where they layered in these surprising, novel sonic textures, things that maybe only AI, trained on vast musical data sets, could easily generate.
The twist.
Precisely. It creates this illusion of discovery. Your brain gets rewarded for recognizing the familiar structure, but it's also stimulated by these new, unexpected sounds.
Which is why, yeah, the most innovative hits often feel instantly familiar, but also totally fresh. That
Hmm.
makes sense from a neuroscience perspective, too.
Hmm.
So the really big takeaway here isn't just, wow, AI can write a song. It's that AI can potentially industrialize the process of hit making.
That's a way to put it.
I mean, imagine an AI endlessly A/B testing thousands of melodic fragments to find that perfect blend of familiar and surprising that just lights up our dopamine receptors. It's not just a new tool, it's like a whole reimagined production line for pop.
It's a powerful idea. But it's really crucial to remember this isn't just a machine churning things out alone. Velvet Sundown's success, as described, is very much a human-AI collaboration.
Okay, how so?
Well, the human plays several key roles. They're the prompter, guiding what the AI generates. They're the curator, sifting through tons of AI output to find the best bits.
Right, the quality control.
Then the arranger, weaving those fragments together to something cohesive. And finally, the refiner, polishing the track, maybe even adding tiny imperfections to make it feel more human.
So it's a fundamental shift, isn't it? Traditional creation often starts from like a blank page, generative. But this AI native creation, like Velvet Sundown, flips it. It's subtractive or curatorial. The AI gives you this near infinite block of raw musical clay.
A good analogy.
And the artist's genius lies in selecting, editing, shaping, refining from that abundance. Maybe the most valuable skill becomes taste perspective, not just technical skill.
That's a key point in the essay. And interestingly, this collaborative model is also probably vital for future copyright protection. The U.S. Copyright Office is pretty clear about needing significant human authorship.
We'll definitely need to circle back to the legal side.
Yeah.
But okay, we've sort of dissected how Velvet Sundown could explode onto the scene, the marketing, the music engineering. But the real test for any phenomenon, human or AI, is longevity.
Exactly. Does it last?
What does history tell us about staying power in music, especially when something starts out as, well, a novelty?
Well, there's definitely the novelty trap. Novelty songs like The Purple People Eater or Disco Duck. Their popularity comes from being weird or different.
Yeah, the gimmick.
And once that gimmick wears off, the appeal often fades. Velvet Sundown's AI origin could be its gimmick. If the music itself doesn't have intrinsic, enduring quality, it risks just becoming this historical footnote once more AI artists pop up.
But hang on, history also offers a counter-argument, doesn't it? Some things initially dismissed as novelties actually ended up paving the way for whole new genres.
That's true. Think about Telstar back in 1962, one of the first big electronic instrument hits. Seen as a novelty then.
But it kind of foreshadowed the whole synthesizer revolution in pop music, didn't it? It introduced a new sound world in a way people could digest.
Precisely. And this brings us to what the essay calls the legitimization cycle that we see over and over in music history with new tech.
Okay, like what?
Well, take the synthesizer revolution in the 80s. Initially, loads of suspicion. Synths were seen as artificial, soulless.
Yeah, I remember that. Real musicians play real instruments.
Exactly. But then artists like Kraftwerk, Aha, even Van Halen, they took synths and made them essential, transformative. They became ubiquitous.
Okay, good example. What else?
Or the sampling wars in the late 80s, early 90s. Hip-hop saw this incredible creative explosion using samples. But legally, it was the Wild West.
Right, until lawsuits started flying.
Yeah, the Bismarcky lawsuit was a big one. It basically shut down unchecked sampling. But it didn't kill sampling. It evolved into standardized sample clearance and licensing. That's a direct parallel for how this AI training data issue might resolve.
Interesting. Okay, one more.
The auto-tune debate. Late 90s, 2000s. Started as subtle pitch correction, then Cher's belief made it this really obvious deliberate effect.
Cher effect, yeah. Caused a huge backlash. Cheating, robots singing.
Totally. But then artists like T-Pain, Kanye West, they embraced it not just as correction, but as a tool for emotional expression, a new texture. And now it's everywhere, indispensable in pop and hip-hop.
So, okay, the pattern seems pretty clear. New tech arrives, fear, criticism, legal mess, cultural chaos, visionary artists grab it and make something undeniable. It gets legitimized and normalized.
That's the cycle. And applying it to Velvet Sundown and AI music. The initial success is definitely fueled by that novelty factor, the controversy. The real test for longevity is whether a human artist, that curator, that creative director we talked about, can step up and use AI not just as a gimmick, but as a genuine instrument to create something undeniably new, emotionally profound and artistically compelling.
The essay says AI music awaits its Kanye West, someone to really own it and push it into legitimate artistic territory.
Exactly. That's the challenge for lasting impact beyond the initial hype.
All right, so shifting gears a bit, what does all this mean for us, the listeners? How do we actually perceive AI-generated music, especially once we know it's AI? Does it change how it feels?
That's a huge question, and it gets into the psychology of human-made, or what the essay terms the narrative premium. There was this fascinating Columbia Business School study.
Yeah.
They showed people identical artworks, but some were labeled human-made, others AI-generated. The AI-labeled ones were valued, get this, 62% less.
Wow, 62%, that's massive.
It seems we inherently value the perceived effort, the struggle, the story, the human intention behind art. AI, seen as lacking that inner world, can feel, well, less authentic somehow.
But here's a weird twist I remember reading about. Didn't that same study find that human art actually increased in value when it was shown next to AI art?
Yes, that's the paradox. It suggests AI doesn't necessarily devalue human art overall. Instead, it might actually highlight its unique qualities, the imperfections, the story creating a kind of human premium.
Interesting. So the machine's perceived perfection, or maybe its lack of a human story, just throws what humans do into sharper relief.
It seems that way. But this bias, this perception, isn't the same for everyone. There's a pretty profound AI trust gap between generations.
Okay. Tell me about that.
Well, generally, Gen Z and millennials seem much more open, more curious, even excited about AI. They use it more, trust its accuracy more often, maybe around 50% trust.
Right. They grew up with digital tech.
Exactly. Whereas Gen X and boomers tend to approach AI with way more caution, more skepticism. Nearly half of boomers might say something like, I just don't trust it. And usage rates are lower.
So overall...
Overall, something like over half of internet users say they'd be less likely to engage with content if they knew it was AI generated. That's a significant hurdle for something like Velvet Sundown, especially trying to reach older audiences.
But didn't some studies show our bodies react differently, even if we say we prefer human stuff, like physiologically?
Yes. There was a PMC study using biometric sensors tracking eye movement, heart rate, skin response. They found AI music led to wider pupil dilation.
Which means?
Higher cognitive load. Basically, our brains are working harder, paying more attention, and participants rated the AI music as more arousing.
More arousing, but working harder. That sounds contradictory.
It is, because despite that physiological arousal, people still self-reported preferring the human music, often calling it more familiar. So the theory is, AI music might be hitting our ears as slightly, perceptibly alien, even if it follows the rules. Its patterns might be mathematically perfect, but lack those subtle human variations we expect.
So our brains have to work harder to process it, like an authenticity tax.
That's a great way to put it, an authenticity tax. A kind of subconscious mental cost we pay when the art feels like it lacks that clear human narrative or touch. For Velvet Sundown or any AI music to really succeed long-term, the reward, the musical pleasure needs to be strong enough to overcome that cognitive tax.
Okay, putting all these pieces together, the engineered creation, the novelty factor, the listen perception issues, what are the big sweeping implications for the music industry as a whole? Legally, economically, artistically?
Well, legally, it kicks off with a potential copyright crisis. The U.S. Copyright Office has been pretty clear. Human authorship is a bedrock requirement of copyright.
Right, you mentioned that. So works made entirely by AI.
Without significant human creative input, they aren't eligible for copyright. They essentially fall into the public domain. The Thaler v. Perlmutter case established that pretty firmly regarding AI-generated visual art, and the principle applies.
Okay, but what about that collaborative model? Human plus AI.
That's the creative control gray area. If the AI is clearly just an assistive tool, like using Photoshop filters or a spell checker, the human is the author. No problem.
Right.
But if the AI generates the core expressive elements, say the main melody, the chord progression, maybe even lyrics based on a prompt, then the human's copyright might only cover their specific contributions.
Like the arrangement or maybe specific lyrics they wrote around the AI output?
Exactly. Just providing a detailed prompt probably isn't enough to claim authorship of the AI's entire output.
Yeah.
There needs to be substantial creative manipulation or addition by the human. It's messy.
And then there's the whole training data issue, right?
Oh yeah, the training data lawsuits. AI companies scrape massive amounts of copyrighted music to train their models, often without permission. Rights holders are suing, claiming infringement.
And the AI companies are arguing.
Fair use. They claim it's transformative. But the Copyright Office seems skeptical of fair use, especially when the AI output directly competes with the original works it was trained on.
So what's the likely outcome there?
Probably new, large-scale licensing frameworks. Think about it. AI companies might have to pay royalties for the data they train on. This could actually create a whole new revenue stream for the music industry, for artists and labels.
Okay, interesting. So shifting to the market, what new business models or dynamics does this AI wave create?
Well, first, AI lowers the barrier to entry for music creation dramatically, which sounds great. Democratization.
But the downside?
An unprecedented flood of content, saturation, making it exponentially harder for anyone, human or AI-assisted, to actually stand out and get noticed.
And what about specific types of music?
We'll likely see the commoditization of functional music. AI will get really good, really fast at creating low-cost background music for commercials, video games, corporate videos, that sort of thing.
Displacing human composers who do that kind of work now?
Potentially, yes. In that specific segment, it becomes a volume and cost game that AI is well suited for.
So if recorded music, especially functional music, becomes cheaper, more commoditized, where does the value shift?
It shifts towards what AI can't replicate. That leads to the rise of the human experience premium.
Meaning?
Live performances. That becomes even more central, the ultimate unreplicable human connection. Also, exclusive fan content, building tight-knit communities, unique physical merchandise, things that offer an authentic human touchpoint.
So the business model pivots, less about selling easily copied digital files, more about selling access to genuine human connection and experiences related to the artist.
Precisely. Authenticity becomes the premium currency.
Which brings us finally to the artists themselves. What happens to the role of the human artist in this AI-infused future? Is it the end?
Not the end, no. But a radical evolution. The role shifts. Think artist as creative director.
Less about the technical execution, more about the big picture.
Exactly. High-level conceptualization. Being the prompter, the editor, the curator we talked about earlier, your taste, your perspective, your guiding vision, those become the most valuable artistic skills, maybe more than instrumental virtuosity in some cases.
And authenticity gets redefined, too.
Yeah, authenticity redefined. It's less about how the music was made, did you play every note, and more about the sincerity of intent, the emotional truth behind it, the human narrative driving the art, even if AI tools were used in the process.
And you mentioned the artist as a kind of intermediary.
Like the artist as spiritual intermediary. AI doesn't have lived experience. It doesn't feel joy or heartbreak. It doesn't ponder existence. It lacks consciousness.
So it can't access that deeper wellspring.
Exactly. The human artist becomes the one who translates those intangible, ineffable human experiences into art, using AI as potentially one of their tools. The human remains the essential channel for meaning and emotion.
So the overarching idea, maybe counterintuitively, is that AI might actually push us towards a kind of humanist renaissance in the arts.
That's the provocative conclusion from the essay, yes.
Yeah.
By taking over some of the technical grunt work, AI forces us, creators and listeners alike, to really reevaluate what we truly value in art. Things like vulnerability, imperfection, storytelling, genuine human connection.
Wow. As the essay puts it, the ghost in the machine, in the end, does not replace the human soul. It forces us to find it, value it, and express it with more clarity and purpose than we ever have before. That's powerful. So to sum up, Velvet Sundown's hypothetical success isn't just a story about a fake band. It really pulls back the curtain on AI's massive potential to disrupt how music is made, how we perceive it, how the business works. And it pushes us fundamentally to redefine what it means to be an artist and what we truly value in human creativity in this new era.
It leaves us with a really interesting question, doesn't it? As AI gets better and better at mimicking human creativity, at learning to sing, will we find ourselves searching even harder for that subtle, imperfect humanness in art?
Or will the sheer perfection and efficiency of the algorithm start to redefine what we even consider resonant or beautiful in music? It's a lot to think about. What stands out most to you about this whole Velvet Sundown journey? Definitely food for thought. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the future of music and AI. We'll catch you next time.